Hey, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today on Talking Business. We are talking today with Jermaine Jones of the Burdham Group, a small business development consultant company. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty of what we should be doing as small businesses, especially during times of emergency. And so I have to thank you, Jermaine, for agreeing to join us today. How
Hey,
are you?
good morning. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I had got a chance to talk to him a little earlier. I was saying I love the tropical look in the back.
Thank you.
He's either rubbing it in or really enjoying his work experience. So we'll start with who are you and what do you do?
Wow. Okay. So I always like to start with how the Burdham Group came about. I started my career in banking up north in Maryland. Worked for the corporate side of banking, and one day, and when you work for the bank, it's all about volume, right? So it's about getting a lot of the clients in, and it's a numbers game. Hey, you get 100 applications in, you get one business loan, or so it's really about that. So one day I was sitting in the office, and I was thinking, I was like, man, if I get 100 applications and one application get approved, there are 99 other applications that didn't get approved, and um, those folks get turned away. So what I started doing was I started reviewing those 99 applications just to see how far along or how short the business owner fell from getting approved. And I started just restructuring a lot of those companies outside the banking, made a lot of money.
Mhm.
And I got thinking, I was like, man, if these are folks that are coming to the bank that are in a position to qualify and apply for big business bank loans, there has to be a large pool of other people that are struggling just to
Mhm.
structure their business and be profitable and grow their business and scale their business. So I started seeking those businesses out, and the Burdham Group was born from there. So
How
um,
long have you been in business?
2008, the market crashed. The market crashed in 2007. The bank wanted to move me to auditing. Um, I wasn't interested in that, so I struck out on my own.
Okay.
2008, yeah, January 2008.
And I'm March 2008. So we were close. We were
There
close.
it is.
I'm intrigued. You talked about loans and bank loans. I know when I first got into business, there was a lot of talk about you want to position yourself to be able to get a loan. Not a whole lot of small businesses are really going to be able to do that. And I
Sure.
think this pandemic really highlighted the
Okay.
lack of preparation when it comes to looking at those opportunities. Um,
Okay.
Talk to us a little bit about what is it we need to be what would a bank be looking for, where do we need to be, how do we need to position ourselves as a small business to really be considered for a loan or any form of funding?
Okay. So I will answer that. I will answer that question in three parts. Um, the first part, I want to dispel the the classic, well-known idea that a small business can just walk into the bank and get a small business loan, right? It doesn't really work like that. What oftentimes happens is small business have to be in business for at least 3 years.
Mhm,
The small business have to have financial statements, P&Ls, balance sheets, income statements.
mhm,
The small business have to be profitable, right? Um, the small business owner um, credit profile, personal credit profile, has to be super solid because initially, when you're taking out those small business loans and lines, you're personally guaranteeing everything,
mhm,
right? So it's under the business name, and folks think, hey, I got an LLC that'll protect me. But what banks and other folks that you enter into contracts do to get around that protection is to make you personally guarantee everything that the business is, taking out.
mhm.
Um, so that's one part. The second part is the business have to be has to have a sound structure. What I
Mhm.
mean by that is a lot of small business folks are in business making money doing whatever it is they do, But when it comes to the business side, the back house stuff we like to call it, it's not together.
Mm-hmm.
No financials, no strategy, pricing, marketing, all that stuff is off. So when you show up to the bank, um, you don't have any of this stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
those are things that the bank need. Um, I think COVID has really revealed to a lot of business owners
Mm-hmm.
the consequence of not having those things, because with the CARES Act, there they gave out the PP loan. The PP loans are forgivable loan, basically free money. There were in Miami-Dade County specifically, we left about probably I think $300 million on the table
Whoa.
because yeah, we left it all on the table. And I know Miami-Dade County wasn't the only county that left that kind of money on the table because a lot of small businesses don't have the back house stuff in order.
Right. Right.
So that money was left on the table simply because these businesses didn't have their financials, no P&Ls, no balance sheets, no income statements, no audited financials, any of that stuff. Free money.
So here's okay. So here's my frustration. Again, you and I have had a chance to talk a little bit about this. We are in a market that touts itself as being a place where small business development is the key. All people can be a startup business, and all startups can be successful. But I, in speaking to what you're saying, then why were we able to, I mean, why did we leave so much money on the table if we really have prepared small businesses the way they should be prepared? What is it we're missing? What is it we did as an infrastructure, as an ecosystem? What aren't we doing right? What can we be doing better?
I think the business model that has been ongoing for the last 30 years is a broken model and that doesn't work, which which consists of folks attending workshops, getting small business certificates upon graduation, and going back into their business, doing the same thing they were doing prior to taking, the small business academy, right? Um, when you think about it, most small business owners really enjoy what they're doing as a small business owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they go to a lot of the agencies for help, they're not going to these agencies to attend a class or a course. They're going to get help with their specific need.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a disconnect. I'm a small business owner. I go to one of these enterprise agencies to get help, but they enroll me in a class, right? Think, think about your big corporations, right? When they go get Boston Consulting Group in the Century, when they go out and get these consulting companies to come in to assist them with a business problem, those consulting companies don't send the executives and management people to class. They devise a plan, analyze the situation, come up with a solution and strategy, roll it out,
Mm-hmm.
get paid by the company, and leave until the company has an issue
Again.
again,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of the agencies doesn't work like that. What they do is, like I said, I show up, I need help with marketing, they enroll me in this class for 6 weeks. I, I got a business to run.
How does
Yeah.
that help? And those are mandatory classes you have to go to for 6 weeks. When, quite frankly, you're telling me the same thing I've learned in other workshops, and I still don't have the manpower to get it done. So what's the fix? I mean, is that something we would come to you for, to say, you might be able to give us a little bit more specialized attention?
So what I've been working on the last 5 years is pitching this concept and idea to all of the small business agencies in Miami-Dade County of shifting the model to where you have professional business consultants that specialize in specific areas of business to act as advisors to the small business owner versus sending them to a course.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you shut up and you're like, hey, I want to scale my business to the next level,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of you attending a course that's going to talk to you about business growth, you will sit down with an advisor for them to analyze the business, analyze the marketplace,
Mm-hmm.
seeing where your company positions itself at in the marketplace, seeing where we can scale your business in the marketplace, developing strategy to do it, and implementing that strategy and rolling it out and scaling it.
which honestly I think would be much more effective. And I think I've told you the best workshops I've ever attended were sort of those one-on-one where we're looking very specifically at the needs of of my company. So we also talked a little bit about when I first started business, March 2008. I checked off all the boxes of what I had been told I was supposed to do as a business owner. I went out and got somebody to do a business plan to this day. I have never really maximized. I read it every now and then just to remember what it is I said. And I now feel like I have to change it. I did all of the bank account. I got the marketing. I did all the things that you are supposed to do. And I think you were like, I don't know if that was a good idea. So for that person who's sitting around thinking it is a good day for me to start a business, you know, where do you start? What realistically?
Well, I would say definitely the first thing you need to do is think about you got to ask yourself, are you really willing to do what it takes to start the business and see the business through? I think a lot of people
Good question.
see successful entrepreneurs and they think it's easy, right? It's extremely hard, and you got to be committed to to what it is you're interested in doing. And what I mean by committed to it, I mean you got to be willing to do any and everything that is going to take to see it through, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think number one is commitment. You got to be truly committed to it to really doing your business. With that commitment comes a lot of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got to these are things that you have to know and commit to in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That those sacrifices might be kids, might be you know um, luxury things, might be your time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure, it's going to be your time. Um,
Payroll every now and then.
yes, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you've gotten to that point, I think that's the biggest hurdle, committing to all of the challenges that you're going to face being an entrepreneur. Secondly, I would say, and I think this is what plagues a lot of black businesses and small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would say, being black, I would say this is, I think, what plagues a lot of black businesses because, believe it or not, Stephanie, when I think about my portfolio of clients, um, and I have a lot of them,
I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going with this.
I, I think I might have one black client.
Okay.
I think I might have one black client, right? So that kind of, I think about that and I'm like, okay, so what's really going on? Why is this like this?
Okay. I'm glad you said that because let's delve into that a little bit. I'm a black.
Okay,
So there are two things. One, I don't think we know someone like you exists, and I
okay,
said this to you. I consider myself a pretty smart woman. I
right,
research, but to know that there is an individual, the resources that are out there that others may be aware of may not exist. And then the second thing I don't think we know is that I guess we don't really, and not just even for your services. I remember talking to a business where we talked about the need to have a lawyer, the need to have an accountant. There's this preconceived notion that those are very expensive services. Um, eh, what's the conversation you need to have with our businesses to say you can't not invest in this without knowing that this is going to be how you scale. This is going to be how you stay successful. This is going to be how you stay out of trouble.
right. So 100% of the time, I ask this question to business owners and just people in general. I said, okay, so would you spend $5,000 to save $2,000? Of course, everyone's like, who wouldn't? Yeah, I would. And I said, that's the equivalent of saying paying for services up front now so that you don't lose $200,000 in your business. Just that simple.
Right.
But even using that analogy, you still have a lot of folks that it's like, I can't touch information. I can't grasp information. I'm like, Information is the most valued commodity in the history of the world. Will always be, right?
Absolutely.
And to hammer home that point, I always tell folks, think about it like this. You get more time for insider trading than you do for manslaughter. Okay. So insider trading, Stephanie, you and I are trying to develop this vaccine, right? We've gotten stage one, stage two is looking promising. The stock on the market is going crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in the final approval phase. The FDA calls you, the Food Drug Administration calls you and says, Stephanie, we're not going to approve the final stage of the drug. So when that happens, tomorrow when they make the announcement, the stock is going to plummet, right? It's going to bottom out. So you call me the day before and you say, hey, Jermaine, listen, we're not going to get approval. I know the stock is going to plummet tomorrow. So what do? I sell all my stock tonight. I make $12 million. Tomorrow, the announcement happens. The
Boom.
bottom falls out, right? So at that moment, the folks at FINRA, that's the new name for the Exchange Commission. The folks at FINRA call and say, hey, Jermaine, we noticed last night you made $12 million on a drug that didn't get approved today and it bottom out. How did you know? And I plead the fifth, right? I don't want to tell them Stephanie. So they give me 10 years, right? Now, let's compare that 10-year federal sentence where I got to do 100% of the time to someone that was out drinking at the bar, killed someone accidentally from drinking and driving. They got charged with manslaughter, got 5 years, did 3.5. They back out in society at 3.5, right? Someone died. All I did was get a phone call. They gave me 10 years in federal prison.
Right.
And I got to do 100%. No one died. Some people lost money, but that's a risk when you are playing in the stock market, right? So I tell folks that to say, hey, this is to stress to you the importance of information. And a lot of folks don't like to buy information because it's not tangible. Your smart companies, they buy information.
Amen.
Your smart companies, they develop their strategies based on information.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I had planned to interview a gentleman who's a farmer out of Georgia, and just in talking to him, I always like to have sort of a pre-introduction. He talked a lot about how he uses the stock market to inform his pricing, which I was
Okay.
highly impressed by. Actually, I was like,
Okay.
but it's cotton. It's,
No, no, listen.
I mean, but it's a brilliant strategy once you really think about it. Like, yeah, that does make
No,
perfect sense.
yeah, that's true. I had a similar experience. I was on a train and I sat next to a cattle farmer.
Okay. Okay.
And we were talking, and he says, I get up every morning at 3 o'clock. And I'm thinking, okay, you're a cattle farmer, you get up every day at 3, you tend to the cattle. He's like, no, I get up to watch the stock market.
Right.
And I was like, why? He says, because conflict in the world affects stock prices of feed, gas, water, and transportation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that affects my business because I need all of that to be successful and to watch my margin.
I was floored. I was like, well, I thought you just did pricing. He was like, no, I've got to know what's going on in the commodities world in order for me to really know that I'm pricing appropriately. And
Right.
I was just highly impressed, actually. So then
Yeah.
it started to make me think, you know, is that the kind of information that we as small business owners need to really we really need to do better in that arena. I know on your bio, a lot of what you do is around the money,
Of
really
course.
understanding the money. And is that where we're
Yeah.
missing the boat? And I'll own, I might be one of them just because pricing for me sometimes is a challenge. Where's the boat? Like, how do we get folks there?
So one of the first things I do when I've taught in some of these small business workshops, and I've also taught at the university.
Uh-huh.
So I used to teach a class called Principles of Management, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every day before class start, I would do like an icebreaker with the class to get their mind flowing. So I would always actually just different questions. So in regards to what you're, inquiring about, I would always explain to them the relationship between the operating budget and marketing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because in business, you only need to get three things right: operation, financial strategies, marketing strategies. You
Right.
can screw up. You can make some major mistakes in business, but if you have those three things correct, you can recover, right?
Right.
So what I explain to my students is this, and also explain this to business owners when we first meet. You got to understand the operating budget. The operating budget is initially when you start a business, you put all your money into this bucket. And
Mm-hmm.
we call this bucket the operating budget. Now, when you start business, money leaves the operating budget to operate the business.
Mm-hmm.
If your pricing and your marketing is not correct, right, you're going to be in trouble because it's the selling of the product and services that replenishes the money in the operating budget,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's incorrect and your operations are wrong, it's only a matter of time before you're going to go out of business because you don't understand that to replenish that operating budget, you need to have proper marketing strategies, solutions, and pricing.
Right.
And I think we don't understand it. I think we think, when I say we, I'm just talking about the small business community. I
Mm-hmm.
think we invest all this money into the business and we think we can sell it at whatever price point. Well, what really happens is this: we go into business, we get the expenses, and we do the prices against the expenses to offset it. We don't look at what the market yield is for that product and service.
Mm-hmm.
So what end up happening is we outprice ourselves in the market, and we don't make any money, and we go out of business. That is what happens in a nutshell. I've often had clients that say, "Okay, listen, why are you priced this high?" Right? Because Olive Garden's price is high. So you're under the impression that since you sell Italian food, that your competitor is Olive Garden.
Right.
Yes. Like, no. Olive Garden is not your competitor simply because you guys sell Italian food.
Right. 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 Exactly. Because your target market might be completely different from Olive Garden.
Right. So this is the thing I said: when folks come here, they're not looking for Olive Garden prices.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
And,
looking
and
for
you don't have as many Olive Gardens either. They have
right,
place almost every corner. You have one location.
right. Because this is the thing: 9 times out of 10, no one's coming to your restaurant to spend $8.95 on a white Zippendale by
Mhm.
Sutter Home.
Right.
When they can go get a whole, they can
When
go
they
get a
go to
bottle.
Publix,
They can go get a bottle for $12.95, right? For that price.
That's true. That's very true.
So I think what oftentimes happens is, like I said, they don't understand the operating budget and how the cash outflow of the operating budget needs to have a cash inflow from the proper pricing and marketing solutions. But only when and I think that's not known because, like I said, I think a lot of small business folks chase the debt with the pricing.
You're right. I agree. Julius Brinson, thank you for tuning in today. He's really liking what he hears. He said, tell us what is wrong with us so we can fix it. And I'm feeling this. I see where you're going. So hopefully we're giving you a wealth of information. So again, we're in the small business mecca of the country, I guess.
We are. This is the third. Miami is the third financial center in America.
Which, okay, and that's interesting because I've definitely been told that, 85% of our industry here is basically small business. You do have a lot of mom and pops who may have been around for many, 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 many moons. Maybe about 10 years ago, we started to really invest a lot in startups. That's been an interesting evolution, I think, because one, and I've asked this question a lot, everybody's got a great idea, but is everybody equipped to turn that great idea into a business? And is every business scalable? Or are there some businesses that, quite frankly, are just hustles? And how are we able to differentiate those? Will be my first question. And then if you got a client who wants to start a business that just isn't going to make it, what's the conversation you have with them to help?
Okay. So to answer your first question, I think every business is a hustle. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you're hustling, regardless of what level you're at, right? Because
Right.
you're trying to generate revenue, right?
Right.
You're trying to grow the business. You I always tell folks like this. I say, when you're an entrepreneur, you're the worker and the boss, right? So on a traditional job, when you're just a worker, you'll work your 8 hours, go home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't think about the job until the next day. You've heard people say, man, when I get off work, I'm not gonna think about the job until tomorrow when it's time for me to come in, right?
Right.
When you're an entrepreneur, you're the worker and the boss. So after you do your work hours, now you got to spend overnight doing the boss hours, right? And I often tell folks, when you get done being a worker, you got to spend the rest of those hours trying to keep the business afloat so
Right.
that you can have a job to come to the next day.
Right.
So in that aspect, every business is a hustle. Um, in
But when
regards
I
to
say hustle, I guess it's a side gig. It's not,
okay,
you're not trying to make it your.
yeah. So that's easy to determine, right? If you say, hey, you know what you're doing, it's just a hustle. They'll say, no, it's a business. Well, why are you holding on to that 9 to 5?
There's a difference.
It's a difference.
This is your bread and butter.
Yeah, you're never. True story. True story. About myself. So for a while, um, I was stalling, right? I was like, okay,
Too.
and I was making a killing while I still had a 9 to 5, and I was like, you know what? You're stalling. You're really stalling.
I mean,
So you're really hustling. I'm like, no, 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 I got the business. I'm telling myself this internally. No, no, I really got the business, and I'm making, you know, this particularly, I had made 100,000, and I still had a 9 to 5. I made 100,000 on the side. So I'm telling myself like, no, I made 100,000. This can't be a hustle, because I made all this money. And no, it was a hustle, right? And I tell folks it's a hustle until you give it up and you give it your all. It's a hustle, yeah.
point. I've had that conversation with several people about we differentiating where people are and now crafting support and resources toward.
Right. So to answer your second question, if I have a business owner that's not going to make it, right?
They're not gonna make.
I'll tell them straight up, you're not going. Listen, you're not going to make it for these reasons. Not that it can't be done, but currently you're not putting in the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're not putting in the money. You're not putting in the proper investment in yourself and in the business. And until you do, it's not going to happen for you.
Right. Right.
Because it needs your time. I say, for example, you know how you spending so much time making somebody else rich on that job? You see all the hours that they take out of you, to enhance their business operation.
Mm-hmm.
You need to give yourself that same time.
Right. Right. That same amount of commitment needs to be.
And
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was the first person I gave that conversation to. I gave it to myself because I was working up north, and we would have production meetings like once a month. And my boss, good man, the meetings used to be at 8 o'clock, so we'd get out there like 7:30 just to make sure that we were on time. And at 7:30, my boss would put on his overhead, and he would show us pictures from his second house. He would show us pictures of his other boat. He had two. He would show us pictures of him at RF. Well, it's FedEx Field now, but he used to be RFK Stadium. He was a big Redskins fan. He would show us pictures from his suite from the weekend. Him and all the buddies, right?
But I'm not in any of them.
So I would go back to the bank and calculate my production contribution to his bonus. That helped pay for the boat. That helped pay for the Redskin tickets. And I used to sit there in the meeting and say, man, what was I doing on Saturday at the bank? What was I doing on Sunday when he left his second house and went to the Redskin game at the bank?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? 10 months, I bought the bank like 170 million. They were paying me, I think at the time, maybe like 150 or something like that. Peanuts.
Wow.
Peanuts.
Oh. Wow.
Peanuts. So myself said to myself, just imagine.
That's so sad to myself.
If we gave ourselves the same commitment and time, what we can do. And, you know,
Voila, here you are.
voila.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna keep going to Washington games on Redskin games on my dime.
And I wasn't mad at my boss because, he was doing what he had to do.
It's a good gig for him, but you had to do what you had to do.
I had to do what I had to do.
So I've been to a couple of as you can only imagine, I've told you this, I've been to several workshops. A couple that really stood out to me. The first would be, I went to one that was about sweat equity that I thought was a very powerful workshop. There was one that was a one-on-one conversation. And then there was only one, that was about the emergency plan. Which and of course it's, two things. You're thinking about the recession, and in this city, you're thinking about the weather. And this pandemic has really brought to light that especially for profits, nonprofits seem to have an emergency plan because they are forced to by their funders. But for profits have not really considered that any further than maybe 2 weeks without lights for a hurricane. That's just not been where we are. And, during this pandemic, we had businesses who were about to close their doors in 2 weeks. So is the conversation shifting now as to what an emergency plan and how seriously an emergency plan should be for a small business? Or is it we just haven't been talking about it? And what is that conversation?
To be honest with you, I've met with the past 2 weeks, I've met with a lot of clients, and the reality is a lot of businesses were in trouble before the pandemic. So the pandemic just exacerbated the pre-existing problem in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
What I've realized is that a lot of clients suffered from customer concentration. And what customer concentration is you have this one particular customer that provides like 70% of your revenue. So you like diversification, and you got this client that is the business, right? So what has happened is just like everything else when COVID hit, all the businesses reacted. They pulled back, some cut back on their operations, some closed for a period of time, right? So it's like a domino effect. So if you had this client that provided 70% of their revenue and they stopped buying or they closed and scaled back, you're in a bad spot. So when we talk about the emergency, it's like, hey, what was supposed to happen when COVID hit? Everyone was supposed to take a hit, right? Every small business was supposed to take a hit. But that diversification was supposed to allow you to still be somewhat sustainable.
Right.
Lacking that diversification in your clientele created this big issue, right? Number one. And then number two, I don't think a lot of businesses were making enough money to put back the proper amount of savings for this emergency.
Yeah.
Because the pricing was wrong and the operation was wrong. And if you were to conduct a financial analysis of the operation, you got a lot of leaks and a lot of holes.
Right.
Then the accounts receivables aren't being received, properly. So you got that stuff going on. But all these things were happening before COVID. COVID just basically sped up the process. It was going to happen.
Right.
COVID. Yeah, it was going to happen. It just was a matter of how long it was going to take.
Exactly.
Because Stephanie, even now, if you talk to small business owners, they will say, "I need access to capital." So often, right. So often, if I gave you $10 million, you would be in the same spot after the $10 million ran out because you would continue to do the same thing you were doing prior to the pandemic.
That's true. That's very true.
So,
but at least you have. I guess I was having this conversation with the other day. Okay, I'm gonna be real candid. We're talking about Black businesses. We don't tend to know the resources that are available to us or have access to the resources that are available to us. Some of that's on us, just not being prepared. So, like you said, some businesses can get $10 million. At least to be able to potentially save themselves. Many of us we're down to the wire. So, you know, what do we, I mean, what is it again? What do we need to fix? Well, how do we fix this? How do we
I think, to be
play
honest with you,
the brain game?
yeah, I think we need to change our mindset on some things,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that's number one. And what I mean by that is, if, for, for example, my experience has been when I've talked to Black business owners about paying for information, it's not something tangible. So it's like, well, I don't really need that. What I need is money. What I need is more customers. It's
Uh-huh.
like, you need more money, right? Yes, you need more customers, right? Information gets you that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we connect. The human capital theory. So the human capital theory is the more money you invest in your education, the more money you'll make over the course of your lifetime, right? That's the human capital theory. So it's kind of like the same thing for business. The more money you invest in the right places in your business, the more profitable and successful you will be.
Okay.
So let me give you an example. So I had two restaurant clients.
Mm-hmm.
COVID hit. I had two restaurant clients, right? One was a Black restaurant. Another one was a white Greek restaurant. Pandemic hit. They had to close their doors.
Both.
Both. I went to both of them with the same pivot strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you what that pivot strategy was. The white Greek restaurant owner, you know, paid for the strategy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Fine, they're still open. Now that everything's back, they're still open. The Black restaurant owner didn't pay for the strategy and they're closed, out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I went to, when COVID hit, of course, the restaurant industry slowed down. So I went to both the restaurant owners and I was like, hey, I have a strategy that will allow you to pivot. We got to look at a couple of things, analyze what your inventory is and do a couple of things. And we'll develop a shopping cart and strategy to get, to really help you guys generate money from an alternative standpoint. White Greek owner was like, yes, how much I need to pay you? Okay, here's the money. Went through all this inventory. I said, now, what is happening in the marketplace is restaurants are closed and no one's going out to eat. Yes, the stores, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are going in the stores buying up all the groceries, right? You are still getting all the groceries you need to make all the food on your menu.
Mm-hmm.
Being that no one is coming to your restaurant, let's turn everything and flip it and turn your restaurant into a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can start selling all the products and supplies that you get from your distributor at a price point to where now you're generating more money selling as groceries than you did if you were making the food, selling it in the restaurant format.
Right. What was
So
the
we just
pushback?
based
What
what
was
was
the pushback from the other company?
the Black owned company.
Uh-huh.
They didn't want to pay for services.
They'll do it. Okay. So Yulia said, name 3 areas of businesses that you think are going to blow up. And what is the new booming business area the Black entrepreneur should consider?
Where does he live? Because it's
I don't
about
know. That's a good question. Where do you live, Julius?
state wise, because it's all based on market.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully he'll let us know. By the way,
Like city wise, because it's this is the thing though. Every region has a different business culture
mm,
and different population that have different needs.
okay.
So it all depends on, like, for example, you think about Miami, New York, LA, it's entertainment.
I,
It's entertainment. And
uh-huh.
so in that realm, it's going to be something different versus being in the Midwest or being in a different market. That's why I always tell business owners, right? Market research. If you're a new business, let's do market research to determine how viable the market is for whatever business you're thinking about exploring. If
Okay.
you're a business that's already in business, right? 9 times out of 10, you don't have a business model. You can't tell me about your industry, and you probably never really did an overall financial analysis of your business,
Mhm.
right? So it's two different approaches depending on the stage of the business.
This gentleman said he's from Orlando and Tampa. Thank you for joining us from up there.
Ah, okay. So he's from Orlando. He's from Orlando and Tampa. Is he?
He said
Because I'm
Orlando, Tampa.
okay. Because I'm from Orlando. So
Okay, there you go. You
all
know.
right. So yeah. That's why. So um, I would say in Orlando is he African American?
Yes, I can tell by the picture.
Okay. So in Orlando, I can tell you there's a big need for black entertainment. Um, I'm not sure his age. Um, if I knew that I could kind of have a starting point with telling him how downtown has changed from the 90s when you had all the different clubs that minorities used to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at this moment, I don't think yeah, I don't think in the city of Orlando limits there are any black-owned entertainment venues. I know back in the '90s, downtown you had Firestone, Sapphires, Icons, Cairo, the Blue Room that blacks used to frequent. And after hours, after 2 o'clock, they would go to like Silhouettes and Heroes, which were in Edenville. But in regards to like this, there isn't really anything um, in the Orlando, even in the Tampa area as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there really isn't anything for black professionals.
Julia, stay tuned. At the end of this, I'm going to ask him how you can get in touch with him. Uh,
Sure, yeah,
um, so we talked a little bit about, and then I'm going to flip the question in just a little bit. Um, During the George Floyd unrest, it has unearthed a lot of conversation about um, the disparities when it comes to the wealth, um, when African American small businesses,
right,
the injustice, just a wealth of disparities that has existed in our culture and that we are hopefully on the cusp of changing. There's a whole big rash of folks talking about we need to buy black, we need to buy black 365. I know in my sorority, that's one of our initiatives, and I support that fully, 100%. I will say I do have some challenges sometimes with how I'm treated when I go to when I work with some businesses, and some of it's just you don't know, like you're not on. Though they're just things you need to learn as a business owner.
right.
But one of my frustrations really was there are industries we're not in. So I can't be lectured about not shopping in a grocery store because we don't own a grocery store or a gas station or any. So a lot of that came to light at the beginning of the pandemic and during the unrest. What's the answer? How do we finally get black businesses to a place and space where we're in every industry and we're competitive in every industry?
Well, I would say, just to be honest with you, we need to give each other the same grace that we give the white-owned businesses and the Arab businesses and the Asian businesses. We're so quick to have one of that experience with one of our own, right? And we can have a million bad experiences with a white-owned business, but we still go back to the white-owned business. We can have a million bad experiences with the Asian business, but guess what? We go back to the Asian business. I want to point this out because I don't think we as a black community really as a whole pay this any attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think we actually spend a lot of time outside our own neighborhood and to going into other people's neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
But the black community is the only community where the convenience stores and gas stations are owned by Arabs and Asians. When you go to the Arab and Asian neighborhood, if you go to an Arab neighborhood, stores, gas stations are owned by Arabs.
Right.
If you were to go to the Asian community, the stores are owned by Asian people, right? So it comes off as if we don't want to own anything in our own neighborhood, right? Historically, when we were growing up, we went to the Candy Lady house. That was the store,
Right. You're
right?
right. You're right. That's it.
Right.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So if you go back historically to like black towns like Edenville or Crosstown or You know, even down here in Miami, the model city, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had black owned businesses. We would, we would have we had our own stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So currently today, I live down here in Miami. So when I go down Cayote, every business on Cayote is owned by the Cubans.
Mm-hmm. It is.
When I go down 17th Avenue through Alapata, all those businesses are owned by the Dominicans, right? I go down 63rd in North Miami, all those businesses are owned by the Haitians, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have black people that have been in Miami specifically for like 100 years, and it's lost on us. So the question is, it's our problem. We're the problem from the standpoint of, if we all decided to go support the black dentist, go support the black doctor, go support the black seamstress, the black whatever business, the black mechanic, right? If we all decided to do that,
Mm-hmm.
right, um, it'll turn around. When I was in banking, there's a city in Maryland called Owens Mills, right? In Owens Mills, man, it's a huge Jewish population. So much so that the bank had to put, you know, in a roundabout way, Jewish employees in the bank in order for the bank to make any money.
And
I
we
mean,
But here's my question, I guess, also is, but then why do I agree, if you're in a black community, all of the ownership, primarily most of the ownership should be African American. I 100% agree with that. But then not only be relegated to that area, but just like everybody else comes into our neighborhood, why couldn't I go into another neighborhood and do business as well and grow my wealth as a business, um, by
you got
my brain
okay.
throughout?
So an honest answer is, um, we could attempt to do that, but everyone else is so bought and committed in love for their culture that they're going to support their own first.
But I'm supporting mine. I'm just supporting them in another neighborhood.
Right, but the neighborhood is not going to really give you their dollar first before they give it to someone else in the neighborhood that has that same business. And you gotta admire that though.
So you got to admire
You
it.
gotta admire that. Like I mean, I've been in a position to have honest conversations in the city of Miami with people of different ethnicities, and they blatantly came out and said, "Hey, if my people running, I'm gonna vote for them. If my people not running, I'm gonna vote for this person here, and then this person and this person." Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got to respect that. So for me, it's like, I understand that. So with us as black people, we need to do that same thing. And it's not about being segregated. It's about, just really supporting and building up your own community. And, I talk to my friends a lot, and I put a lot of onus on the black man. I feel like a lot of the things that are going on in the black community in regards to economics, in regard to, family, in regard to just community building falls on the black man. And as a result of his absence, a lot of stuff is not in order. A lot of stuff is um, screwed up. You
Mm-hmm.
think about some of the stores that are in our neighborhood, right? They're stores that really promote and feed um, our lack of intelligence when it comes to certain things. Like healthy foods. I mean, you know,
But again, I want to support. I do, but
but
I
but
can't.
it's about education, though.
Yeah, it is, and it's
It's about
about figuring out how do we shift that mindset, I guess, for both the consumer and the business.
we got to shift our mindset on how we see each other. Because
I,
I can open up, yeah,
I,
I can open up my restaurant, um and the customer will come in and give me the flack that they won't give to a business that was owned by somebody non-black,
mhm,
right?
I agree.
They'll come into my business and say, hey, they'll come into my business and say, your prices are too high, right?
Right, I agree.
And they'll go and take that same money. Give me a second. They'll take that same money and go to another business and spend that same dollar amount and won't complain about the price at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, well, why are you complaining about my price point, but won't, but go take that money and spend that same, the same money somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I would say too, I've like you're talking about in our business, I've been in workshops also where there has not been a conversation in when you're talking to folks like us about how we need to own our own properties as business owners or own our own anything as business owners. We're sort of always beholden to others. And I think that conversation needs to shift as well. Because as you mentioned, it makes it easy for others to sort of come in and have businesses. And what can I say? What can I do? I don't own anything. So how are we having those conversations with some businesses as well? And, even when you think about the young lady that does hair in her house, she's running a business. How do we get her out of her house and into a brick and mortar where she's able to really grow and develop and build a business that serves that community? Those are our conversations.
So that really boils down to strategy. So the strategy to that is, first I would say for her to develop an LLC, right? Go to a salon where she can rent a chair, but rent the chair in the name of the LLC. So you start creating you start creating traction in business history, right? Oftentimes when you go to hair salons, the young ladies that are doing hair in there don't have a contract for the chair. They got like a verbal agreement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you take out a lease for the chair under the company's name, you started to create that leasing history because you're renting a space. It's a chair, but it shows up as you're renting a commercial space.
And you're a formal business.
And you're a formal business. So now everything is in order, and now you're starting to process as if you have a brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to build that track record. You start to build the financials that we talked about. You start to have the P&Ls. You start to have, you start building the business credit and your personal credit.
Mm-hmm.
So now when those grants come out and those loan opportunities present themselves, you got the 3 years history of being in business, having a rental agreement, paying taxes, and all your paperwork and whatnot is in order, and having insurance and all that is in order.
This is, I can tell you,
and you see how in 3 years we scaled it without you actually having to take a lease out on a commercial building.
Right. And it's those innovative ideas really that people, we don't know. Like I had never thought that, but then I'm not trying to do hair either. So.
Right. But see, that's where paying for information is valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's why, my what kind of bothers me and I bang my head is I make a special effort to reach out to Black people, and still to this day, my portfolio is all white and Latino Hispanic. And right now I have a push with a lot of Venezuelan clients.
Okay, I can imagine, because they're all trying to come here and buy property.
No, I have some Venezuelan clients that have contracts at the airport that have only been here 2 years. Got big money contracts at the airport. They doing it.
Wow. Okay, I might be calling you.
They're doing it. They're doing it. I'm in the process of restructuring a company right now.
That's doing the airport.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's another company, a cleaning company that a startup I just put together and launched, doing well.
So, okay. So before we leave, because this has been a wonderful conversation, it really is. I might have to ask you to come on again. What is your widget? Like, what's your thing? Because I think, we talked about it before. When you have a thing, that's easy to sell. But when you're a service, people are trying to figure out what you do. So what's your widget and how do you make your money? What's that product?
Well, in a nutshell, I tell folks I sell information.
Okay.
I mean, to try to, my mom, when I was trying to explain to her what I do, and she was asking a million questions, and I'm like, you know what, Mom, I sell information, right? If you're in business and you have a business and you want to know something, you want to scale your business, you need answers. You want a playbook on what it is you need to do, what you need to charge, how you need to distribute it, who you need to target. I can send you that information.
Okay. Okay. And that would be specific to what the needs of my business is.
Yeah, basically, whatever it is you want to know. Because there's another business that I own that I service Fortune 500 companies, and all I do is sell them information.
Okay.
So I own a market research company. So by default of having that company, I can talk to you at nauseum about a whole bunch of stuff.
for a little bit less than what you would charge them.
Yeah, but I mean, for the small business owners, I mean, their stuff is not that complex.
Right. Right.
As some of the clients, some of the bigger clients that I have on the market research side of the company, they have very specific, in-depth things that need a lot of research that they need to, they want to know the answers, and they want the answers to be pinpoint.
Right.
So they pay for information.
And as your own company, I'm sure it's a challenge sometimes focusing on your company itself and then your client's company. How do you balance that timing?
Well, every year I have a retreat with myself. So at this retreat with myself, I analyze the previous year's strategies and pricing and customer base and the market. And information will never ever lose its value. The need for information will never ever decline.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, it's during COVID. This part of the year is normally a slow period because folks are getting ready for the holidays and whatnot. But since COVID, it's been ridiculous.
Right. Right.
Everybody need information. Now businesses are really screwed up, and a lot of clients that I've met with, I've revealed to them, you guys were messed up before COVID. You just didn't know it.
But you can't even look back at past history. I was literally just talking to a client yesterday who really depends a lot on events. And I was like, I don't have a gauge. I can't tell you what's happening right now because the numbers are going up. I know people are shutting down in some cases. The factors don't apply anymore.
Yeah, so they needed a pivot strategy. I've had clients that were in the entertainment industry that, we had to take the entertainment underground. So it still was happening.
Right. It's happening in a different way.
It's happening in a different way.
Is that why our numbers are going up?
Huh?
Is that why our numbers are going up?
Hey, I just provide the information. I don't make no choices. I just give information.
We don't want names. We don't want names.
Client to contact me and say, hey, I need to do this. I need you to figure out how to make it happen. What do we need to do? They pay the money. I work the magic and say, here it is. This is what needs to happen. This worked. And it has worked.
We'll make it happen. Hey. Okay. So yeah, I might be calling you. So
yeah, I do what I'm paid to do.
So I'm very excited. Actually, I mean, we want to talk about it right now, but actually, Jermaine and I had talked to a while ago because we're working on a project that hopefully we will be able to really support small businesses in the future. So stay tuned for that for sure. Before we go, can you please tell us how we can get in touch with you?
Well, my website, www.burdhamgroup.com. The name here, you see it? Wrong way. Wrong way. Sorry. Here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm on the web. Google me.
Okay. Thank you so much for the information. Several people tuned in, and I hope you all got a wealth of information. I know I was learning some stuff as well. So I'll be in touch very soon. Thank you again for doing this. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great one. Talk to you, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Likewise.
So everyone, thank you for tuning in. Like I said, I that's one of the reasons why I love this show, because I think I learned some stuff, and I hope you do too. Happy Thanksgiving. As many of you know, Thursday is Thanksgiving, so we won't have an official show. We probably will stream one of our shows from the past, but we hope you'll tune in on Tuesday, where we'll talk to Terry Williams, who is the president of a Black-owned bank, One United Bank. So she'll be here to talk to us a little bit about how banks are surviving during the pandemic, and in particular, Black-owned and operated banks. So thank you so much for continuing to tune in. We really appreciate you. We hope you have a happy holiday. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.